Hi there, Miss Fideli here. I'm going to talk to you about Chapter 6 of To Kill a Mockingbird. It is a more exciting chapter, lots of action in this one. And it starts out with Jim and Scout asking if they can hang out with Dill. It's Dill's last night in Maycomb before he goes back to school, leaves his Aunt Rachel's in Meridian, for Meridian, and doesn't see them again till next summer. Of course, Atticus says yes. He says, tell him hi for me, and we will see him next summer. And Scout is telling Dill that they're going to miss him. And then they're talking about the neighbors. They like to watch for Mr. Avery because he's very predictable, and he goes out on his porch about the same time every night. And they just kind of remember like his routine. And so then Dill just kind of nonchalantly stretches and says, let's go for a walk. And Scout is like, really? Right now? Nobody goes for a walk at this time of night. It's late. Why do you want to go for a walk? And so then Jim starts kind of saying, oh, don't be a girl. You don't have to come along. And he calls her a name and stuff like that. And so then he tries to say, oh, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to go for a walk. We're going to go strolling down the street. And she is not buying it. So she says, no, I'm not going home. And the boys just say, why don't you just go on home, Scout? And she's not going to take a no for an answer, so she's going to follow them. And Jim and Dill are just going to simply peep in the window and get a look at Mr. Boo Radley. And if she doesn't want to go, then she can go home. And so, of course, she's going to go. And she asks, why did you wait until midnight? Basically on a school night, like, that doesn't make any sense. And Jim says for the last time, Scout, you're acting like a girl and you're getting more like a girl every day. And of course, she doesn't like to hear that because she's a tomboy and she doesn't want to be called a girl. She doesn't like dresses, none of that. So of course she's in. And so they make a pact not to tell anyone and spit on their hands and shake on it, which is something that they do at this time period. Anyway, they decide to go down the street, open up the Radley gate, and they are going to go to the back of the Radley house just to get a peep at him and see what he's doing, see if he's real, if he exists, even though Atticus told him, them all to stop. They start to walk around the back, and then Jim makes a noise, and they look at Jim, and Jim says, chickens. There's chickens, so they have to be even extra careful. But then they decide to go creep on the side of the house. And they're kind of slowly walking, and they're lifting Jim up to the windowsill. And he says to hurry because it's hard to hold them up, right? Dill is being held up right now by Jim and Scout, and they ask him what he sees, and he says he can't see anything, just curtains. But he does see a teeny light somewhere in the back. So there's some kind of light on, so somebody's home. And then they decide to try the back window. And so Jim starts to put his foot on the bottom step, and it squeaks. And so everyone freezes and panics for just a moment. And then when they realize everything was okay and it was silent, he continues to move, and he heaves himself up, and he teeters for a moment, and he regains his balance. So everything's okay, and he drops to his knees, and he crawls to the window and raises his head to look in. And then that's when they see the shadow. It's a shadow of a man with a hat on, and he's walking towards them. And first the shadow goes across Jim, and then it goes to Dill next. And then Dill puts his hands on his face, and then it stops about a foot beyond Jim. And that is when they decide to take off running, and they run through the colored patch. And then as Scout trips, and she hears a roar of a shotgun shattering through the neighborhood. And so Jim holds open the fence, for both Dill and her to crawl under, and they get going and say, meet by the fence in the schoolyard. And so Jim holds up the bottom wire, everyone gets free, and then they realize that Jim's not with them. And so they get to safety, their respiration is normal. You got Dill and Scout still looking for Jim, and they look down the street and they saw all the neighbors in front of the Radley gate. And everyone's congregating and hanging out, and Mr. Nathan Radley, so that would be Boo's dad, he's standing inside his gate with a shotgun across his arm, right? And Atticus is standing with Miss Maudie and Miss Stephanie, Miss Rachel, and Mr. Avery, and none of them saw Scout and Dill coming up to them. So Jim asks what happened. Then Atticus says that Mr. Radley shot at a Negro in his collared patch. And they said, oh, did he hit him? And they said no, that he shot in the air. Scared him pale, though. But he does say, Mr. Nathan says, that if he sees another one, he's going to be waiting for the next time someone comes through his yard, whether it's a dog, he uses the N word, or a person, and then someone yells, Jim Finch. And then Atticus says, where are your pants? He is missing his pants because they got stuck in the fence while he was trying to get free. That's why he was not with Dill and Scout when they first arrived, was because after he held the fence for them to get through, he tried to sneak under, but then his pants got stuck. And so he ran to the scene with no pants. And Dill, he becomes clever and he comes up with an excuse and he goes, I won them. I won his pants from him. And they're like, won them? How? And basically Dill makes up this like idea or lie that they were playing strip poker. And of course, Miss Rachel is mad and she's yelling at Dill and she's calling him names and she says that she's going to basically reprimand him, right? He's in trouble for playing strip poker. And Atticus is like, I've never heard of that before, so that's kind of strange. And so he never wants to hear about it again, or he never wants them to be doing anything like that again. And so Jim and Scout say their goodbyes to Dill, and they head on home. And then they try to go to bed, and Jim goes, are you still awake? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. I can't sleep. I'm hearing every sound, and I'm scared. And so Jim goes, hey, I have to go back and get my pants, because Atticus is going to find out in the morning that it was me once he finds Mr. Nathan Radley finds my pants. And Scout says, it's not worth it. Leave him there. You'll get a whipping, and it will be just fine. And Jim basically says, I've never had a whipping before from Atticus, and I don't want to start now. So basically, he just does not want to disappoint his dad. I think he has a lot of respect for him, and he doesn't want to let him down. And so he is determined to go get his pants. So he jumps out. I'm sure it's like 2 or 3 in the morning right now, and he sneaks out of the house, and he goes to get his pants in the dark. And after a long time and Scout's, thinking the worst and hearing all these noises, finally she sees him returning. And he lays down and he's trembling and it's quiet. And eventually him and Scout go to bed.